Ah, fellow contrarians, gather around. I'm Cornelius Ledgerkin of the Decoding Crypto team, and today we're diving into a transformation that's quietly reshaping the world of finance. You see, there's a seismic shift happening, one that could fundamentally change how we think about ownership and investment. It's called real-world asset tokenization, or RWAs for short. And if you're not paying attention, you might just miss one of the most significant developments in the crypto space. But before we get too far ahead, let me make one thing clear. This is not financial advice. Investing in cryptocurrencies comes with its own risks and rewards, so always do your own research before making any decisions. We're here to explore, learn, and uncover the potential together. Now, why should you care about RWAs? Well, imagine owning a slice of a luxury hotel, a vault of gold, or even the rights to a musician's royalties, not through mountains of paperwork and middlemen, but with a few clicks on the blockchain. Sounds wild, doesn't it? That's the power of tokenization, and it's unlocking opportunities that were once out of reach for the average investor. So, buckle up, fellow contrarians. We're about to uncover how the world of real-world assets is being brought onto the blockchain, what this means for traditional finance, and most importantly, what it means for us. And hey, before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Drop your questions in the comments. Just a reminder, we won't be answering any price predictions, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, let's dive in. Fellow contrarians, gather around. Today, we set our sights on a fascinating development in the world of cryptocurrency, one that is quietly changing how we think about ownership and investment. I'm talking about real-world assets, or RWAs. Now, you may have heard the term floating around, perhaps mentioned in conversations about the future of finance. But what exactly are these RWAs? And why are they becoming such a significant part of the digital economy? To put it simply, RWAs are physical or intangible assets from the real world that are brought onto the blockchain. Think of things like real estate, gold, art, or even intellectual property like patents and copyrights. These assets are tokenized, meaning they are converted into digital tokens that represent ownership. And because they exist on the blockchain, they can be traded, transferred, and divided with ease. But before we explore the implications, let's pause for a moment and reflect. Why would someone want to tokenize a real-world asset in the first place? See, traditional finance, often called TradFi, has long been a realm of restrictions. Wealthy investors and institutions have held the keys, deciding who gets to participate and who doesn't. Real estate, for example, has always been considered a solid investment, but not everyone has the means to purchase a building or a piece of land. Commodities like gold and oil face similar barriers, with ownership often requiring large capital, legal intermediaries, and complex processes. That's where RWAs step in. Through tokenization, a large asset can be broken down into smaller, manageable pieces. Imagine a luxury hotel like the St. Regis Aspen Resort in Colorado. In 2018, this hotel became one of the earliest examples of RWA tokenization. Nearly 20% of the resort was tokenized and sold for $18 million. Instead of one wealthy investor owning that slice, numerous smaller investors each held a share, represented by digital tokens. Suddenly, people from around the world could participate in real estate ownership without needing millions of dollars. And it's not just real estate. Commodities like gold, which traditionally required vaults and security, can also be represented as tokens on the blockchain. Rather than buying and storing physical gold, an investor can simply purchase a token representing fractional ownership of a gold reserve. These tokens can be traded instantly with transparent proof of ownership recorded on the blockchain. But fellow contrarians, the magic of RWAs goes even further. Intellectual property, often overlooked in traditional markets, is also finding new life through tokenization. Patents, copyrights, and even royalties from music or films can be turned into digital tokens. This means a musician, for instance, can tokenize the rights to their songs and receive direct compensation from listeners, cutting out unnecessary middlemen. Creators gain more control and their supporters can invest in the success of their work. It's a beautiful shift, one that empowers individuals rather than institutions. Now, some of you might be wondering, why is this happening now? Well, the answer lies in the evolution of blockchain technology and the rise of decentralized finance, or DeFi. In traditional financial systems, banks, brokers, and regulators control the flow of money. Every transaction has to pass through multiple intermediaries, each taking a fee along the way. But DeFi changes that. With blockchain, transactions are automated using smart contracts, self-executing agreements written in code. There's no need for a middleman to approve a sale or verify a transfer. The blockchain handles it all, ensuring transparency and security. RWAs act as the perfect bridge between TradFi and DeFi. On one side, we have the stability and familiarity of real-world assets. On the other, we have the speed and accessibility of blockchain technology. This combination creates a new era of liquidity, meaning assets that were once difficult to sell can now be traded with ease. A tokenized building, for example, can be sold fractionally within minutes, with the blockchain recording every transaction. But what does this mean for us, the contrarians who see opportunities where others see obstacles? It means we now have access to investments that were once out of reach. Instead of needing a fortune to buy a share of prime real estate or precious commodities, we can participate with smaller amounts. We can own a slice of a hotel in Aspen, a fraction of a gold reserve, or even a piece of intellectual property, all with a few clicks. And consider the impact on emerging economies. In regions where financial systems are underdeveloped, RWAs offer a way to participate in global markets. A farmer in a remote village could tokenize their land and gain access to funding without relying on local banks. A small business owner could raise capital by tokenizing their intellectual property. The possibilities are vast, and they're not limited to the wealthy few. Of course, it's not without challenges. Regulations are still catching up, and questions about legal ownership and enforcement remain. Governments and institutions are carefully watching this space, knowing that the rise of RWAs could disrupt traditional financial systems. But fellow contrarians, isn't that precisely why we're here? We understand that disruption breeds opportunity. While others wait on the sidelines, we are the ones who explore, learn, and adapt. So, where does this leave us? The story of RWAs is still being written. We are at the beginning of a new chapter in finance, one that prioritizes inclusivity, transparency, and efficiency. Whether you're an investor, a creator, or simply someone curious about the future, understanding RWAs is no longer optional. It's essential. As you reflect on what we've discussed today, consider this. The next time you hear about a tokenized building, a gold-backed digital asset, or an artist turning their music rights into tokens, think of the bridges being built. Think of the barriers being broken. And remember that you, my fellow contrarians, are not just spectators in this transformation. You are participants, shaping the future of finance one token at a time. Fellow contrarians, thank you for staying with me. We have explored the concept of real-world assets, those tangible and intangible treasures that blockchain technology is bringing to the digital world. From luxury hotels and precious metals to intellectual property and fine art, we saw how these assets are becoming accessible to investors far and wide. Now, let's journey a little further down this road. How exactly are these real-world assets transformed into digital tokens? What makes this process not only possible, but also revolutionary? This transformation is called tokenization. It's a process that takes ownership of physical or intangible assets and converts it into digital tokens that exist on a blockchain. Think of it as taking something real, like a building, a sculpture, or even the rights to a song, and representing it digitally in a secure and transparent way. Once tokenized, these assets are no longer tied to slow-moving paper-based systems. Instead, they become part of a dynamic, decentralized economy where they can be traded, sold, or fractionally owned with just a few clicks. But why, you may ask, would someone go through all the trouble of tokenizing an asset? Well, the answer lies in accessibility. In the traditional financial world, only the wealthy could afford to own large properties or valuable art. But tokenization breaks these assets into smaller, more manageable pieces. Imagine a luxury property valued at millions of dollars. In the past, owning a slice of that would be out of reach for most people. But with tokenization, you could own a small fraction, a digital token representing a piece of that very property. No large deposits, no complex legal processes, just a simple investment made possible through blockchain. And it's not just real estate. Tokenization applies to anything of value. A piece of fine art, once locked away in a gallery, can now have thousands of owners who each possess a share of its worth. Commodities like gold, typically stored in secure vaults, can be digitized and traded with ease. Even intellectual property rights, patents, copyrights, or music royalties can be tokenized, ensuring that creators have direct access to their revenue streams while allowing others to invest in their success. Now, fellow contrarians, let's dive a little deeper. The actual process of tokenization isn't as mystical as it might sound. It all begins with validation. Before an asset can be turned into a token, it must be thoroughly assessed to ensure that it's legitimate. This means verifying ownership, confirming legal standing, and evaluating the asset's value. Think of it like an inspection before a sale, only this one involves meticulous checks to ensure that the asset is exactly what it claims to be. Once validated, the asset moves to the next stage, token creation. Here, digital tokens are generated on a blockchain, each representing a specific share of the asset. Blockchain technology ensures that these tokens are secure, transparent, and impossible to alter. Every transaction, every change in ownership is permanently recorded for all to see. There's no room for manipulation or deceit. The blockchain serves as a public ledger, a single source of truth that makes trustless transactions possible. With tokens in hand, the final step is trading and distribution. These digital tokens can be bought, sold, or exchanged on decentralized platforms. Unlike the traditional system where intermediaries like banks and brokers would take a slice of every deal, blockchain removes the need for middlemen. This not only reduces fees, but also makes transactions faster and more efficient. In moments, an investor from across the world can purchase a token representing a share in a building, a rare artwork, or even a share of future music royalties. And the benefits? Oh, they are plentiful. Fractional ownership is one of the most empowering aspects of tokenization. It allows people with limited capital to enter markets that were once exclusive. Imagine owning part of a Picasso, not just as a distant admirer, but as a true investor. Real estate, once tied up in long sales processes, can now be swiftly traded like stocks. Liquidity surges in markets that were once considered illiquid. Assets that once sat idle for months or years can now change hands in minutes. But perhaps most importantly, transparency and security are woven into the very fabric of tokenization. On a blockchain, every record of ownership is clear and tamper-proof. No hidden contracts, no backdoor dealings, just pure, verifiable data available for anyone to see. This not only protects investors, but also builds a marketplace founded on trust. Fellow contrarians, we are witnessing a remarkable shift. Tokenization is not merely a financial convenience. It's a reimagining of how we interact with value itself. Real estate, commodities, intellectual property, all of these are no longer bound by their physical constraints. They are now part of a borderless economy where anyone with curiosity and determination can participate. But remember, we are still in the early days of this journey. Regulators are carefully watching, figuring out how to adapt old laws to this new digital world. Challenges remain, and not every tokenized asset will be a golden opportunity. Yet, as always, fortune favors the informed. By understanding how tokenization works, you stand at the forefront of this financial transformation. So, as you contemplate your next steps, ask yourself, what opportunities might lie within these newly tokenized worlds? Could your portfolio benefit from a touch of the digital frontier? The answers, my friends, are yours to discover. And if this story has sparked a thought, a question, or even a contrarian urge to explore further, be sure to stay with us. The world of RWAs is vast, and our exploration has only just begun. Fellow contrarians, if you're finding this exploration of real-world assets as fascinating as I am, now's the perfect time to show your support. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It helps more curious minds like ours discover what's really happening in the world of crypto. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapter in our journey through the blockchain frontier. Got thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments below. Though remember, we're not here to predict prices. We're here to understand the real innovations shaping the future of finance. All right, let's get back to it. There's much more to uncover, and I have a feeling the best is yet to come. Fellow contrarians, let's continue our journey in the space of RWAs. We've already explored the remarkable world of real-world assets, how they are brought onto the blockchain through tokenization, making ownership more accessible and transactions more efficient. But today we venture deeper. Now that we understand what tokenization is, it's time to look at why it matters. What makes it so transformative? What opportunities does it unlock? And of course, what challenges lie ahead? Imagine, if you will, a world where an elegant sculpture in a gallery, a luxury resort by the sea, or even a sprawling vineyard in the countryside could be owned not just by a single wealthy investor, but by hundreds or even thousands of people. No middlemen, no complicated contracts, just a transparent digital ledger recording every fraction of ownership. That's the promise of tokenization. But to grasp the full weight of this shift, we must first understand its greatest strengths. The most immediate benefit is liquidity. In traditional finance, certain assets, particularly real estate, fine art, and collectibles, are considered illiquid. Selling a luxury apartment, for instance, is no quick task. Months of paperwork, negotiations, and legal complexities stand in the way. But tokenization changes that. By representing ownership through digital tokens, these assets can be bought and sold almost instantly on blockchain marketplaces. Suddenly, the process is as simple as trading a stock. Investors who once faced long waits to access their capital can now move in and out of their positions with ease. And this, my friends, brings us to accessibility. Historically, investing in high-value assets was a privilege reserved for the wealthy few. The barriers to entry were high: large capital requirements, exclusive deals, and insider networks. But tokenization tears down those barriers. Through fractional ownership, even a modest investor can own a piece of a luxury hotel or a priceless painting. It's like holding a single brick from a magnificent castle, small on its own, but part of something far greater. This democratization of ownership means people from all walks of life can build wealth in markets once considered untouchable. But as you know, fellow contrarians, access without trust is no victory at all. That's where transparency enters the picture. Blockchain technology, with its immutable ledger, ensures that every token, every trade, and every ownership record is visible for all to see. Gone are the days of backroom deals and hidden contracts. With blockchain, everything is recorded openly, reducing fraud and ensuring disputes are rare. A tokenized property, for example, has a clear, verifiable history of ownership. No forged titles, no legal uncertainty, just pure, verifiable truth. Yet, as with any innovation, tokenization is not without its challenges. And to ignore these would be to miss half the story. One of the most daunting obstacles is regulation. Every country has its own financial laws, and many were crafted long before blockchain even existed. Navigating these regulations can be like walking through a maze without a map. Some jurisdictions are embracing tokenization, recognizing its potential to foster economic growth. Others, however, remain cautious, imposing strict rules that complicate the tokenization process. Ensuring compliance is no small task, but it is a necessary one for projects that aim to endure. Then, there's the issue of valuation accuracy. Determining the true worth of a tokenized asset isn't always straightforward. In traditional finance, appraisers and analysts rely on historical data and market trends to assign value. But with tokenized assets, especially those without a long sales history, finding a fair price can be tricky. Inaccurate valuations can shake investor confidence and destabilize markets. That's why many projects rely on third-party appraisers, automated valuation models, and transparent data to ensure prices reflect reality. And of course, we mustn't forget security. Blockchain may offer transparency, but it is not immune to threats. Smart contracts, the self-executing agreements that facilitate tokenization, are only as reliable as the code that powers them. A poorly written smart contract can be exploited, leading to devastating financial losses. Furthermore, custodial services, which safeguard the actual underlying assets, must maintain airtight security. The lessons from past breaches in the crypto space are harsh, but they serve as a reminder that rigorous audits and constant vigilance are essential. But fellow contrarians, I urge you not to see these challenges as reasons to retreat. Rather, see them as signposts, markers of an industry still growing, still learning. Solutions are already emerging, Regulatory clarity is improving in some regions, with governments collaborating with blockchain innovators to create balanced frameworks. Valuation models are becoming more sophisticated, integrating blockchain data with traditional financial metrics. And on the security front, developers are building more resilient smart contracts and safer custodial solutions. The path ahead is not without its obstacles, but every great innovation has faced resistance. Just as the internet disrupted traditional media and e-commerce reshaped global retail, tokenization is poised to redefine how we own and invest in assets. It's a shift that empowers individuals, opens markets, and challenges the status quo. And as fellow contrarians, isn't that precisely what draws us to this space? We are not afraid to question, to explore, and to embrace the future before others even recognize its arrival. So, as you reflect on what we've explored today, consider the opportunities that tokenization presents. The ability to diversify your portfolio, access new markets, and participate in projects once far beyond reach. These are no longer distant dreams. They are within grasp. Whether you choose to own a fraction of a luxury hotel, a sliver of fine art, or even the rights to a song that echoes through the digital halls of the blockchain, you are part of a movement reshaping the financial world. And this is only the beginning. There are countless stories yet to be told, countless lessons yet to be learned. So, stay curious, ask questions, and continue to seek the knowledge that will guide you on this journey. Because in the world of tokenized real-world assets, the boldest contrarians will always be the ones who see the future before it arrives. Ah, fellow contrarians, good to still see you here with me. We've explored the concept of real-world assets, and we've seen how tokenization is tearing down the walls of traditional finance, making ownership more accessible, transactions more transparent, and markets more efficient. But now, it's time to meet the pioneers, the innovators building the bridges between the tangible world and the blockchain. Today, we'll take a journey through the most intriguing real-world asset projects in the crypto space, each with its own vision of how to reshape finance. Let's begin with Ondo Finance, a name that's quickly becoming synonymous with the tokenization of government-backed assets. Imagine the reliability of U.S. Treasury bonds, long considered one of the safest investments, but now accessible without the typical barriers of traditional markets. Ondo Finance takes these bonds and converts them into digital tokens. Instead of navigating through brokers and financial institutions, investors can now directly access these bonds on the blockchain. No waiting for markets to open, no mountains of paperwork. Just seamless, secure transactions available around the clock. But what makes this particularly groundbreaking is the concept of fractional ownership. Instead of needing tens of thousands of dollars to invest in treasury bonds, investors can own a small piece of them. This approach democratizes access to stable fixed income investments that were once reserved for institutional players. And with blockchain providing transparency, every token holder knows exactly what they own, free from the shadows that sometimes cloud traditional finance. Ondo is proving that stability and innovation can coexist, opening government-backed investments to anyone willing to step into the digital age. Now, let's shift our gaze to a different corner of the financial world, real estate, a historically illiquid and capital-intensive market, has long been the playground of the wealthy. But Real Dahi has other ideas. Using blockchain technology, Real tokenizes properties, splitting them into digital tokens that represent shares of ownership. Imagine owning a fraction of a home in Miami, or a duplex in Chicago without the headache of mortgages, realtors, and endless legal documents. Through Realty, you can do just that. What makes this even more powerful is that these properties generate passive income. As a token holder, you receive rental income directly to your wallet, just like a traditional landlord. But unlike traditional real estate investments, you can trade your tokens whenever you choose, creating liquidity in a market that once kept investments locked for years. It's a simple but profound shift, transforming real estate from a static, long-term investment into a dynamic and flexible financial asset. But a world of real-world asset projects doesn't stop at investment. It extends into lending and borrowing too. Enter Maple Finance. Traditional lending is often bogged down by intermediaries, paperwork, and lengthy approval processes. Maple Finance cuts through this complexity using blockchain to create decentralized lending powered by real-world asset collateral. For borrowers, this means accessing loans without the red tape. For lenders, it means transparency and security, knowing that blockchain records every step of the process. Institutions can use physical assets as collateral, while investors earn returns by providing liquidity. It's a system built on mutual trust, not because of reputation or legal agreements, but because the blockchain makes every transaction verifiable and immutable. And yet, there is still more to explore. In the world of financial instruments, not every asset needs to be directly tokenized to have value on the blockchain. Some assets are recreated digitally through something called synthetic assets. This is where synthetics comes in. Rather than dealing with the complexities of holding real-world assets, synthetics allows users to create and trade synthetic versions of them. Imagine you're interested in the price movements of gold or the fluctuations of a global currency, but you don't want to worry about actually storing gold bars or navigating foreign exchange markets. Through synthetics, you can trade a synthetic version of these assets. The blockchain tracks the value and movement, mirroring the real-world price with precision. It's a trader's dream. 24/7 access to global markets without the usual constraints. And for those seeking to hedge their bets or diversify their portfolios, synthetic assets provide flexibility like never before. Of course, fellow contrarians, no great innovation comes without its challenges. Regulatory landscapes remain complex, especially for projects like Ondo Finance that deal with government-backed securities. Real estate tokenization faces hurdles in ensuring accurate valuations and legal recognition. Decentralized lending platforms like Maple Finance must constantly defend against vulnerabilities in smart contracts, while synthetics users must navigate the inherent volatility of synthetic asset trading. But these challenges are not insurmountable. They are the growing pains of an emerging financial system that is still finding its footing. As we reflect on these projects, one thing becomes clear. We are witnessing the dawn of a new financial era. What was once reserved for the few is now accessible to the many. The power of tokenization, the transparency of blockchain, and the ingenuity of decentralized finance are converging to create something truly transformative. Whether you seek to own a slice of a luxury property, lend your capital in exchange for returns, or speculate on the price of gold without ever touching a bar of it, the choice is yours. But the story doesn't end here. This is merely the beginning. Projects like Ondo Finance, Realty, Maple Finance, and Synthetics are paving the way, but countless others will follow, each bringing new ideas and innovations to the table. As fellow contrarians, it is our role to stay informed, to question, and to explore. While others hesitate, we step forward, seeking not just the surface-level gains, but the deeper understanding of how this new financial landscape operates. So, I encourage you to take a closer look at these projects, read their white papers, explore their platforms, and consider the opportunities they offer. Because while the world of real-world asset tokenization is still young, it is growing rapidly. And those who recognize its potential today will be the ones best positioned to shape its future. And there we have it, fellow contrarians. A glimpse into the world of real-world assets and how blockchain is rewriting the rules of ownership and investment. From luxury hotels and gold reserves to music royalties and intellectual property, the opportunities are vast. And they're no longer reserved for the wealthy few. But remember, we're still in the early days. Regulations will evolve, challenges will arise, and not every project will stand the test of time. That's why staying informed is key. And that's exactly what we're here for. If today's journey sparked your curiosity, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. And of course, share your thoughts in the comments below. Questions, insights, even that contrarian perspective. We welcome it all. Just keep in mind, we're not in the business of price predictions. We're here to explore the technology, the innovation, and the opportunities that lie ahead. Until next time, fellow contrarians, remember, while others wait for certainty, we embrace the unknown. Because in the world of crypto, the boldest moves often lead to the greatest rewards. Stay curious, stay sharp, stay decentralized, and I'll see you in the next one.